Bills getting set to play the Baltimore Ravens, and before kickoff on Sunday, the Bills and Pagula Sports and Entertainment are going to have a special presentation, going to honor members of St. Bonaventure University's 1970 men's basketball team. They went to the Final Four. They'll have some of the former Bonnie players on the field for a pregame ceremony. On the line with us right now to talk about it, we're happy to have the athletic director from St. Bonaventure, Tim Kenney. Hello, Tim. John Murphy and Steve Tasker here in Buffalo. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, guys, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. It's great.
Yeah,
it's an honor, actually.
Oh, no. It's an honor to have you guys here.
Yeah,
I told
thanks.
Steve the other day, we were talking about this. This is my wheelhouse, 1970s Little 3 basketball. I grew up a Niagara fan because my dad was an alum. I was 20 minutes away. I grew up a Calvin Murphy fan, but these teams, these are my wheelhouse. Canisius and Niagara, especially back in 1970, a couple of NCAA tournament teams.
Yeah, that Little 3, it has a special place in the history of Western New York when it comes to, the fabric of basketball. And it was great. It was great even to see you at our game with Canisius the other day at the KeyBank Center, because that's why we do things like that, is to really just pump up the fact that, this is still good basketball here. Well, yes, the landscapes have changed a little, but it's fantastic for Western New York in general.
And we're going to get a chance to remember those days when you commemorate those guys that went to the Final Four on the field Sunday against the Baltimore Ravens. It's going to be kind of cool. You guys are the co-game sponsor. It's going to be fun. I mean, how many of the guys can you get? Were you able to finally get back and come to this?
We've got almost everybody coming back now. Bob is coming back. We're trying to see if he can make it to the game on Sunday, because we have a big event on Saturday, and he might have a commitment with the NBA on Monday back out in Phoenix. So that's the one we're waiting on to see if we can do that. But other than that, we pretty much have everybody coming back, which is fantastic, because, once again, some of these players, they're Western New York players. And, we talk about this all the time when we were planning this whole thing, is this whole commemorative 100 seasons and the 70 team that went to the Final Four, it's bigger than St. Bonaventure. This is Western New York. This is the region type thing. So we always have to keep that in mind. So we're hoping we can get it there. But coming out with the Pagula support and really honoring these guys at the game is absolutely tremendous. We couldn't be more excited for this weekend.
St. Bonaventure, the official game week sponsor as the Bills host the Ravens, and Bonaventure is the official education partner of the Buffalo Bills. Bob, of course, Bob Lanier, the Basketball Hall of Famer, who, as Tim said, is going to be here this weekend, at least at some of the events. And I will tell you this, Tim, we're watching some of the video on our MSG feed about Bob Lanier, a legitimate Hall of Fame player. And I'll never forget, I think it had to be the same year, 1970, senior year for both Lanier and Niagara's All-American Calvin Murphy. And Larry Weesey and Frank Layden had those two jump center to start the game at the odd. So 6'11" Bob Lanier jumping center against 5'9" Calvin Murphy. I won't say Calvin won the tip, but it was a sight to see. It was amazing.
That just goes back, that history. And you used to fill the odd with those games. And to me, that's something we're trying to recapture too. And by adding UB actually into the Big Four now, kind of trying to bring that around, I do think, I look at those things, and I'm watching the video as you're putting it up, and there's just some of these shots that they're fantastic, and the guys coming back, and I look at that, and we had the throwback uniforms for the Canisius game, and we'll be wearing them again, and people love them. And they were clamoring, they want to have that there, and it's great because it brings up these feelings of what the great times it was back in the day.
It wasn't just Lanier either, and you've got other members, including some big names, Matt Gant, Billy Calbaugh. These were important players in the history of Bonaventure basketball, right?
That's right. Billy Calbaugh was the point guard for that team. Dale T-Pass coming out from Western New York. He played, Paul Hoffman, who came just over the border in Pennsylvania. You had so many, the regional players on this team. That's why we look at this and say this is a big celebration for Western New York basketball, not just St. Bonaventure basketball.
Yeah. And I would think when that group takes the field Sunday before kickoff, they're going to get a warm response. It was Western New York sports history when they went to the Final Four, and Lanier gets hurt against Villanova right before the Final Four. But that was Western New York sports history some 50 years ago.
Yes, it was. I wasn't born. I was born that year. I might look a little bit older now. That's okay. But I was born that year. And to hear the stories, and everybody I go to, the connection, I grew up on Long Island, but the connection with St. Bonaventure basketball from the city and everything coming up, and then having the players, the Stiff brothers, come up from Brooklyn, and all that connection, it's perfect. And so you look at everything we're going to celebrate, because obviously we're honoring the 70 team at the Bills game, and we have a big dinner the night before, right after our game with Hofstra at 2:30, and we're honoring the all-time team, the top 20 players of all time, too. I mean, you got a lot of great names on here. And that history of basketball here, sometimes you have to remember that. It takes a little dips now and then, but for the most part, St. Bonaventure basketball has been up here. And it's been very successful. And that's what we're really celebrating is the history of this and what it brings to the region.
And of course, the recent history is good, too. Mark Schmidt in his 13th season. Bonnies are 4-4, just won a tournament in Boca Raton, Florida. I mean, it's different era, different landscape in college basketball, but the Bonnies have remained relevant, haven't they?
Yeah, they have, and Mark has done an unbelievable job. We're so lucky to have him here and that he fits everything that St. Bonaventure stands for. And what he's able to do is find these kids, bring them along. They're not one and dones. They take 4 years. He develops them, and they go. And you know, this year's team, while we're 4-4, we're young. 10 of our players, it's 6 sophomores, 4 freshmen. So, wow. And then you have 2 juniors and a senior. And so you look at that and say, yeah, the future's bright. There are going to be a little bumps up the road, but we got a lot of talent in here, and the future is bright, I believe, for us in the future, as well as the other teams in the Big Four. So I think all of that together, we could lift up college basketball in the region and really come in and fill a little bit of a void that's been missing a little bit lately.
What are some of the other events? You mentioned a dinner after the game against Hofstra coming up this Saturday. What are some of the other events besides the Bills game against Baltimore in the stadium on Sunday, the dinner on Saturday night? Is there some other events happening this week?
Well, obviously, we'll be announcing and highlighting the all-time team during the game as well. The cool thing is we kind of left Friday night for the guys. We wanted them to be together, and they let you know this be the first time they're all together for the most part in a while. And what they wanted to do was they're going to come over to practice, watch the current team practice, and then have dinner with the current team and sit and talk with them and really tell them about their time there and what they feel is that this new crop of kids are carrying the torch for what they did back in '70, and they've been doing a great job. So that I'm really looking forward to. And then we kind of ease right into it. They got their own mass set up, obviously, over in the chapel, and they want to do that. So we've kind of left it there, and then the dinner is going to be fantastic. We have almost 500 people coming for this, and we've had to use the rec center and really doll it up because we have no other place that's big enough. Sure. We can't flip the arena quickly. So we're excited about it. You know, the place is going to be packed. I saw Coach Mahalik down in Boca because Hofstra was playing, and he's no stranger to the Riley Center with his time at Niagara, and you know, he's looking forward to it. He goes, "This is going to be a lot of fun." And I said, "Well, it's going to be something because I don't think there's going to be a seat in the house left, and they're going to be jumping all over you, Joe. You know that." And he's excited. So it actually fits perfectly having him come back to Western New York too, since he is a staple of that college basketball scene with his time at Niagara and the great job he did there.
Well, it's going to be, we know it's a big game for the Bills here, but a really great weekend for the Bonnies. And we appreciate you coming on with us today to talk about it, Tim. Thanks very much.
Oh, guys, I appreciate it, too. And hopefully we see you down here in Olean for a game. It's not that far a drive. I'll roll out the brown carpet for you boys.
I've been down there. There you go. I appreciate it. I've been down there. It isn't a very long drive.
No.
We got to go down there.
I've made that drive. I've shot baskets in the old Olean Armory with Pete Lonergan, Tim, believe it or not.
Did you? Oh yeah. Gotta love Pete. You gotta love Pete. He's the best. He's a Bonnie through and through.
Yes,
Even though he coaches Niagara, I'll give it to you, Murph. But he's fantastic. So I appreciate it, guys. We really do. And we're looking very forward to this actually partnership, too, with the Bills and Pagula Sports, because I really think it's going to help raise the profile of what we do throughout Western New York, and we couldn't be more pleased with having this.
Thanks, Tim. Good to talk with you.
All right, be good.
Tim Kenney is the athletic director at St. Bonaventure, the official education partner of the Buffalo Bills. They're this week's game sponsor, and they got a big weekend. They're bringing up the members of the 1970 men's basketball team, the Final Four team. They'll be honored pre-kickoff before the Bills play the Baltimore Ravens. Coach Larry Weese and a bunch of his former players will be there on the field to accept the warm congratulations of the crowd. That's my wheelhouse. I told you that.
I knew it was. I just kind of sat here and listened to it. I can always tell when you kind of sit up in your chair and you
I'll go
couldn't
back
wait
where
to
you
get it.
said
Yeah, it was great.
I love that stuff. I grew
yeah.
up on that. I grew up on that
Exactly.
college hoops.
I know exactly what you mean.
All right, we got a break here. We're coming back with more. We're going to hear from Dennis Pitta in the third and final hour of the show. He's a radio analyst for the Baltimore Ravens radio network, former Ravens tight end. He's coming up when we come back after this break. One Bills Live, presented by Kaleida Health from the Seneca Studio in Orchard Park. This is Buffalo Bills Radio.